just the frames. Got keys to kingdom, unlocking chains. Sober the podcast, open up your brains. Sober the podcast, let's get it, man.
Welcome back to another episode of Sober the Podcast with your host, Bradley Saxon, Mr. CJ Carlton.
Yo, what up?
And we got a good friend of ours on the couch today, in the lab today, Mr. Kevin Medlin, all the way from Dillon, Florence, South Carolina. But your folk live in Dillon, right?
They do, yeah.
I killed my first deer in Latta, South Carolina. You know where Latta
I know
is?
exactly where that is. That's,
Yeah.
right down the road outside of Sellers.
Yeah, I tried to drag that thing with a rope. It was just like a little spike. Yeah. I had an Avalon to put it in, you know? That was a bad day.
I remember that car.
Yeah,
that mint green.
Yeah,
car.
dude, yeah. I'm glad there was like a deer processor like a mile up. He come got me, and it was the scariest day of my life. But anyway.
Shoot it, figure the rest out.
Thank you, man, for coming all the way to Anderson, South Carolina to spend some time with us, share your experience, strength, and hope. But before we get started, we have a little tradition we do called the three-pointer, and it's a little bit of an icebreaker. And we're going to play 3 songs. You got to determine who they are.
I'm ready.
And depending on how many you get will be dependent on how many shots you get at the end of the show.
Now, wait a minute now. I believe the last guest got as many shots as she wanted.
Yeah, that's because it was she. You know how that is.
Okay. I got you. All right.
We feel sure that you'll make it on the first shot, don't we, see?
Nah, he'll make it.
So if you make 3, you don't get 3 different things. You get one thing.
Oh,
you know?
I see how it is. Okay.
Shout out to Woody Dantzler.
Yeah.
I mean, he made one and took 17 things. That joker
Woody
got
did.
a wardrobe for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Yeah. Woody got it all.
Woody got it all.
Every color.
Hey, that's promotion though, right?
That's it.
There ain't no doubt.
Yep.
Woodrow, there ain't enough weight in the gym over at the Y, so, he's over there with the bridge stuff on promoting
dude.
it.
It's awesome.
Shout out Woody Dantzler. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and make this a little bit. I'm going to start off with an easy one, and then I might try to stump you at the end, okay?
All right. Give it a shot.
Give it a shot.
Yeah. Nelly.
Hey.
You hear it, he's like, Nelly. That's a Nelly.
That's
boy.
easy.
Okay, that's an easy sauce. Let's try this one then.
DMX.
Yeah.
See, this guy's like, you know,
Hey,
when
he was
jam
sandbagging.
bands, some
Yeah, he
Grateful
was-
Dead. This joker is listening to DMX and ain't nobody watching. You know what I mean?
Sandbagging.
Sandbagging,
Yep.
bro. He's not leaving without merchandise. There's no doubt in my mind. All right, final one.
Yep.
Oh God.
Bro.
Huh?
Bro.
Cash Money Records taking over.
Juvenile.
Juvenile. Let's go. A 3-banger.
Three for three.
3-banger. 3 for 3. Well, I mean, chances are you're probably going home with nothing because CJ bent that rim before he got in here.
And I put Crisco on it. So
Perfect.
Crisco.
I can about reach it from here.
I know.
You know, something just hit me, man. Like, there was a time in all 3 of our lives where laughter wasn't really present.
No.
And so to be able to laugh, to have some fun, is pretty cool because there was a time when there wasn't really nothing funny.
Wasn't nothing to laugh.
Y'all remember when we got into recovery, into AA, people laughing, we thinking,
What's wrong with him?
I mean, ain't nothing funny.
Yeah. I was like, I don't even want to be here right
Bro,
now.
you
What
know
y'all
what I'm
laughing
going
about?
through right now?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
dude.
so to be able to be here on a Friday morning at like 8 o'clock, 8:30, and laugh, and just not really have no agenda, really not got nowhere to be.
Nope.
That's a pretty cool place to be, present, in between them.
In between the snaps.
In between the snaps, man, that's pretty cool. So, Kev, the way that we typically frame the what
Episode.
you
Yeah.
like that word? Is we allow the guest to just share what it was like, which would mean, and you know that well because we're all AA guys, what it was like in addiction, maybe even prior to addiction, some of the things you struggle with, and then the turning point, and then what it's like now.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, we all know that a lot of our adult issues stem from maybe unaddressed things that we went through when we were kids, man. But I'm just going to leave the floor open a little bit for you to just sort of start wherever you believe
Okay.
things.
Well, you know, I would definitely have to say that the common theme or thread that you hear people say, you know, early on is about fitting in or not fitting in, not being comfortable in my own skin. Was a feeling that I was very familiar with from a young age.
Yeah.
I think that I wasn't necessarily really aware of it until probably 5th or 6th grade. So I had had my first sleepover with a friend in school, and I used to sleepwalk really bad. So I would sleepwalk and I would talk in my sleep, and just be completely unaware of what I was doing, you know, no idea of what was going on. And so I remember going over to this kid's house and you know, had a sleepover. Everything was fine. Went to school the next Monday, and I didn't know what happened. Like, nobody wanted to talk to me. None of my classmates. And I went, you know, I went to a small private school. So, you know, you're talking about a class size is like 10 or 15 kids. And it's pretty evident, you know, in a small classroom
That people are
setting
avoiding
that
you.
people are avoiding you. And I couldn't figure out what was going on. And that it went on for a few days. And finally, it, you know, finally it came to light. So apparently when I was sleeping in the middle of the night, this this guy had woken up and I was rubbing his eyebrows.
Bro, I'm trying to figure out who it was with
That's
me
good.
that slept in the bed when we took off on a little adventure like this, and I woke up and he was rubbing my head.
Was that D-Rob?
No, D-Rob. I had the same thing. Oh, bro, what did he go around and tell
Oh,
people?
well, you know what he went and told people. He
Bro,
was
Kevin's
good.
gay, bro.
Kevin's gay.
Kevin's gay's rubbing my eyebrows.
And
Kevin, I'm not laughing at you, bro.
Yeah,
That's
he is.
freaking hilarious, dude.
well, you know, and the kids reacted the same
my
way that you would
gosh,
think they
bro.
would. You
Yeah.
know, kids are mean,
How
man.
did that make
Yeah.
you feel?
Oh, it was horrible.
Devastated.
And that went on for a half a year, man. Like a half a school year.
Yeah.
Like
If there
I
was a
sat,
hole, you would have hid
I
in
sat by myself. You know, I literally did everything for almost a half a school year by myself because nobody wanted to be around me.
it. Wow.
And so, you know, in my mind, from that moment forward, whether it was conscious or subconscious, I was never going to allow something like that to happen again.
Yeah.
If I could help it.
Which means you probably never spent the night anywhere else.
Well, no, I did, but I'm saying from the standpoint, you know, of going out of my way under any and all circumstances to
Yeah.
make sure that you accepted me.
Yeah.
Because my identity was you know, was caught up in the approval of
people.
others.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think it's huge for the listeners to hear what you're saying because acceptance is a need that God gives
Yeah.
us. It's a spiritual need,
Yeah.
which we eventually realize is met through Jesus, through the justification. But you know, that type of wound at a young age for a child who has a need to be needed,
Yeah.
and then looks to that from their peers and
Yep.
then does not get that acceptance, the word that comes to mind is rejection.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
Because
absolutely.
when love, acceptance, worth, or security, these needs are not met, the ultimate underlying issue there is
Yep.
I'm rejected.
Yep. Not
Right. So he
accepted.
didn't learn that the kids were immature and they needed to get better.
Yeah.
He learned I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so that was, you know, if I look back as I was thinking about, you know, a lot that happened, you know, going back, I could trace it back to that moment of knowing that, you know, in order for me to be okay, everybody has to think that I'm okay
Yeah.
or think that I'm great.
Yeah.
And so
what a ride you jumped on at that junction.
It was it was a damned ride.
Yes, it was.
There was no
A
success. There
truckload
was
of
no
pain.
no success that could come from me being in control.
Yeah.
Of
Well, I love what you said, conscious, subconscious. Really, you believed a lie in your subconscious mind that you're not really, you don't really know that it's there unless you investigate.
That's
but
right.
it comes through those experiences that he adopted this idea of, I'm not good enough
Yeah.
or there's something wrong with me. So I'm going to spend whatever I got to spend to make sure that I get that approval.
That's exactly right.
And that's there, but we
Yeah.
don't know it till we work an inventory. But it's amazing how people are navigating life today with subconscious beliefs. They don't even know that are there
right.
from those kind of events.
That's right.
So just keep telling us. Like, I know that it's funny. I'm in 5th grade and it's downhill from here.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Most kids are like, most teachers are trying to tell these kids, like, you got the rest of your life ahead of you. And, like, the truth is in our life, bro, like, it's downhill from here.
Yes, sir.
You know?
Yeah.
So, obviously, you could probably go on the rest of the day and share many events that just happened. Like, same events that created the same type of wounds or just these unrealistic expectations we place on people and they let us down. But when is the first time that you really, that you found alcohol or drugs that really helped medicate that gaping size hole?
So I would have to say that, well, the first drug, I guess, would be the butt of a Winston cigarette that my dad had thrown on the ground.
That's the last. I mean, it's been a long time since I heard about Winston cigarettes.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was pretty big deal back then.
So I saw him smoking. He was a smoker, and I just thought that that's what you did, and that's it was acceptable, and I would sneak around and wait on him to throw cigarettes out. And when he would do that, I'd pick one up and smoke it, and I'd get that
little
tingly,
head rush,
lightheaded feeling, and I was like, "Wow, that feels pretty good."
How old were you think?
Oh gosh, I don't even remember, man.
Kid?
I mean, I was a kid.
It's amazing. I mean, you don't have to teach us that stuff.
No.
Nope.
You really don't, man. You don't have to teach us that. We're sort of born with it, right?
Yep.
And we're just reaching.
It was definitely, I would say it was definitely after those feelings of inadequacy. It wasn't like, I came from a very loving home. I never, a nuclear family. My parents are still married to this day. I never wondered whether I was loved or not.
Siblings?
Yeah, I've got an older brother, 6 years older.
Yeah. So just you and him.
Yeah. And so, my efforts at trying to feel different really didn't occur until I really started being aware of my inadequacy or my perceived inadequacy, I guess is the best way to put it.
CJ always says you really know you have a spiritual malady when you start drinking and using.
Yeah.
Because then it sort of goes away for a little bit.
Yeah.
Right.
It does.
But you like you said it earlier. I don't know if I was conscious to it, meaning this uncomfortability in my own skin, but it's clear that looking back, it was there.
Yeah.
Right. But the first time, I smoked pot, I was probably 15.
He's definitely in his 40s. He's definitely born in the 80s.
Yeah. Smokes pot.
78, bro.
No way.
78.
Are you really a 70?
46.
Oh, shoot,
Yeah.
bro. Well, he was born in the late 70s, so it's reefer
Yeah.
or pot. I love it, dude, because you get these newer kids on the block in here, and they're talking
They
about
smoking
loud.
Zaza.
They're smoking
It's
loud
Zaza
and
now,
Zaza,
dog.
and I'm like, dude,
Yeah.
what are you talking about,
That's Zaza
bro?
now, bro.
You know, we
Yeah.
smoke pot, bro.
What's a pot?
Left-handed cigarette.
Yeah, no doubt, dude. They don't even know what a JOB 1.5 is. Like, what is that, bro? You know?
Dude.
They go in your wallet. I know
Yeah,
that.
dude. We smoke blunts, bro. That's weird.
That's good, dude.
So
That's
yeah,
so weird.
I smoked weed the first time.
I mean, does that just come from somebody you're hanging out with?
Oh yeah, well,
Just your buddy had
the
some bud?
close friends, everybody kind of started doing it. It wasn't peer pressure. It was that need to fit in again.
Yeah.
It was that if I don't do it, I'm gonna, I'm gonna rip that scab off of you not
Liking me.
liking me.
Yeah.
And I can't
And
go
that's the
through-
most important thing in my world.
It's amazing how whatever it takes to fit in is so much more consequential than the consequences that's going to come if I don't.
Yep.
Right.
Like, I am not worried about going to jail
Nope.
tonight. If going to jail's the worst thing, then I'll take
cool
it
with
because
that.
I am not spending another 6 months with my
Nah.
friends avoiding me
Nah.
and me feeling like a turd in a punch
Nah.
bowl, bro. Like, I'm going to jail.
Yep.
That's crazy,
Yep.
ain't it?
It is just
Any
a
means
very
necessary.
skewed way of looking at things.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have always wondered, since we're not normal,
Yeah.
like no, and John might be normal. He's about as normal. He's the normalest person in the room.
100%.
But I've always wondered, like, I just don't really think everybody feels the way we felt.
Not to
I'm
the
not sa-
degree. I don't think to the degree.
Yeah, so
I just don't
like,
think
I
to the
don't,
degree.
I do believe everybody is born into
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
separation from God. So
Yeah.
there is a bit of I need needs
Yeah.
met. But dude,
Yeah.
not everybody is the extreme example
Nah.
of self-will
Nah.
like we are.
Nah.
Well,
Like, my wife ain't running around picking up Winston cigarettes after, you know what I mean? Or going by the table at the restaurant
Yeah.
drinking everybody's
Yeah.
beer they let. Like, I am
Yeah,
though.
for sure.
Yeah.
You know, so I don't know, man. Like, we didn't never have a chance from the jump.
But hadn't that become our superpower though?
Well, I mean,
You know?
I've always said this, and people flare at it, but like, I just don't know that we were born to succeed.
Mm-mm.
Like, success independently of God is a nightmare
Yeah.
for me. You
Yeah.
know?
it is.
Well,
You know?
self-sufficiency spells success for a lot of people.
Yeah, but
Self-sufficiency spelled death for us.
for
you
sure.
know? Which then, always caters to the idea of the flesh, man.
Yeah.
And what kind of remembered success began to form whenever you, obviously it started with the Winstons, but at 15 when you smoked pot, was that like
Did you like that? Not everybody.
I didn't
liked
get
it.
high the first time I smoked it.
I've had several people say that.
Yeah, I don't-
Did you inhale?
Absolutely.
And
yeah.
it must have been some dust.
Either that or
Pedro must have brought that over.
or my normal was just so out there that to start with that it just wasn't. I don't know. I don't
couldn't get back
remember.
to neutral?
I don't remember it having
Effect.
that tremendous effect. It wasn't like I need to do this again because it felt so good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I needed to do it again because I needed you to like me.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
So, of course, there was a time that I did start feeling the effect, and when I did, it's no different than anybody else. It took me out of those anxious, ever-present thoughts
Yeah.
that just totally consume me.
Yeah, for sure. And I like that word consume because that is the truth about the spiritual malady in our life is that it was a constant battle.
Yeah.
Every day a fear of the unknown,
Yep.
fear of do they like me?
Yep.
Like I've squandered many hours that could have been worthwhile thinking about what I should have done differently.
Yep.
You know what I mean? As if like I had one shot. You know?
Yeah.
And it's like I ruined it.
Yeah.
I'm never gonna be okay.
Yep.
They hate me.
Yep.
You know? I mean y'all identify with that statement.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
so obviously in that type of scenario, like marijuana is good, but here's the truth. We're eventually going to graduate
Yeah.
from smoking weed.
Yeah.
Well, and that's exactly what happened. I hated the taste of alcohol, but guess what I did?
Drank
I
it.
drank it
Yeah.
because
What was the first thing that you ever drank that you
Zima.
Oh, with a
You
Jolly
know something
Rancher.
about Zima?
With a Jolly Rancher.
No, just Zima.
Yeah. I remember Zima.
Because I couldn't stand the taste of beer. I cringed at liquor. I needed something.
But Zima would do it, bro. It tastes like a little watered down Sprite.
Right. Yeah.
Hey, who's Zima?
That's Ziba in
Says
the book
Pot's
of.
brother.
Hey, who's
That's
Zima?
2 Samuel chapter 9. That's Ziba. He's talking about Ziba, Mephibosheth's servant.
So yeah,
I love
that was the first thing I drank and threw up the very first time.
Really? Off one Zima?
Oh, well, no, I probably drank 6. But
No, yeah, you did.
yeah,
I mean, which is probably because you had an allergy at 13.
Yeah.
whatever it was.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I drank a Mad Dog and I was right, dude.
Yeah.
And then there was something in me that thought I should drink another
Yes.
one.
Right.
Yes.
And then I wake up on a cold tile
Yeah,
floor with
yeah.
vomit everywhere.
Do you think that you had the allergy whenever you first drank or first used, or do you think that's something that developed in you?
I think it developed.
Yeah.
I don't think I did in the beginning because I managed to, I mean, I was pretty much a straight A student in high school.
Yeah.
I never had any problems academically. I wasn't in trouble. I will say, I watched my older brother get caught doing everything. So I mean, he did
Shout
all of the
out to
same
Craig
things.
Medlin.
Yeah, man.
I love
he
him.
blazed a trail.
Yeah.
And I mean
dude.
a trail.
He's a stud, though.
So
Love
I
that
watched
dude.
him. If he even had a wrong thought or motive, he got caught.
Yeah.
And so I watched him, and I watched all that go down, and then I said, "Well, now I know what not to do."
Yeah.
And we did all the same things. I just managed to not get caught.
You just did it better. Yeah.
And
He was careless.
Yeah. Yeah.
and so academically things were good. I didn't have any behavior issues.
I always like to bring up this part too.
Well, that's a lot of your story, too, man.
Yeah, and I always like to bring up this particular part. Like, were you involved in sports?
No,
You weren't?
I was 6'2", 145 pounds
Yeah.
in high school.
Soaking wet.
I was
Tiny.
Contact sport
Yeah.
was not in my
Was
in
not
my future.
wasn't in the wheelhouse.
So you
No.
didn't really grow up playing like Y ball.
No.
No,
Well, I
that's-
mean, I did, but I was horrible, man.
Yeah.
I was horrible. Like I just, I'd love to say I was athletically gifted, and I just wasn't. I mean, I was horrible at baseball. I got hit in the face whenever I was in little league. and,
Never going
uh,
back.
baseball was just like
I'm never going back.
Yeah.
So,
That's a child's. I mean, that's a dad's nightmare
Yeah.
for their child
Yeah.
because they're never going back.
Yeah.
yeah.
You hit that kid in the face at 9, 10 years old. He
Yeah.
may never stand in that box again.
Yeah.
Well, I think what kept me from drinking or using all the way up until the point where I did when I was in college was sports. But I think even more than and that was performance. But I think even more than it was sports, it was the camaraderie and the acceptance that I got from being on a team.
Right.
Like all of us doing something and going in the same direction and a common goal. And you know what I mean? Like I think
It
that
helped
kept,
you.
Yeah, well, it kept
Well, I
me.
mean, it treats the spiritual malady.
It treated that, man. It treated
Like,
that in me.
I mean, you got to do it again and
Yes.
again and again.
Yeah.
But it worked for a
Yes,
while.
It did. It did work until it didn't. Until it didn't work as good as drinking and using.
Well, until you found the buddies that played sports but
Yes.
liked to drink and
Yes.
use.
And then I found out like everybody I'm playing college ball with is smoking weed, and I was just like, okay, well, the norm just changed for me, because I thought like we were the exception. Like we're not doing those things, and then I get to college and we got 12 guys on the team, and 8 of them are smoking blunts every night.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dang, this is acceptable. And then to find out that I had an allergy and none of them did.
They put it
None
down.
of those
They
guys
put
had
it down
Yeah.
and went on,
None of-
and you
yeah.
got 18 more DUIs later.
Yes. None of
Yeah.
them had it.
So in high school, Kev, so, no behavioral issues, no getting in trouble, making good grades, graduate.
Yeah.
No real trouble with drugs and alcohol in
No,
that
but
juncture.
things escalated. I was, I started out smoking pot, started drinking, and it was just the typical high school binge drinking on the weekends,
Tightening up Monday through Friday.
Right. And then everything was fine. And, but, I progressively started doing more and more, drinking more and more. I was smoking weed before I'd go to first period, my senior year of high school.
Yeah.
I mean, it was almost like I had to have it, and I didn't, but I did.
Yeah.
Like it just become my norm.
Yeah.
And it got me.
It was just a habit
out
you
of those
created.
feelings, right? And so, gradually that escalated. You know, hallucinogenics. You know, big into live music. You know, LSD, mushrooms, anything that we could get our hands on. You know, they used to hear, "What's your drug of choice?" More. Well, yeah, more. Whatever.
That was
I don't
all my
care.
thing. It ain't what you got, it's how much you got.
Right.
Because I need some more.
Yeah.
But it was my senior year in high school, probably halfway through the senior year, cocaine started becoming a thing. And I can remember vividly the first time that I tried cocaine. And, you know, we talked about not having that moment with weed and alcohol prior to that where I just felt like I'd arrived. You know, it did what I needed it to do. But the night that I tried cocaine, I said, I want to feel like this
Every day.
all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was that euphoric feeling. The moment that I did it, I said, I want to live the rest of my life in this state of mind.
Yeah.
And I pursued that to the best of my ability for the next however many years.
How old were you when you first tried
Well, he
cocaine?
was a senior.
17.
Yeah.
So I'm my birthday's in July, so I hadn't turned 18 yet. So
Yeah.
I was 17 at that
Yeah.
point. And I pretty much the second half of my senior year did it as often as I possibly could, which was limited. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, limited
With
means
parental advisory.
Yeah.
And
right. There was a
Yeah.
lot of things that kind of kept the train on.
But
the
you
tracks
thought
during
about it when you wasn't doing it.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Got into Clemson, and that's another moment that I want to talk about because you know, we talked about not feeling comfortable early on, you know, in the stuff that happened whenever I was younger. But when I got to Clemson, something happened. Like my social anxiety was off the charts.
To the tip.
I did not even feel comfortable like going anywhere or seeing people. Like I was so scared of what you were going to ask me or if I was going to have to actually carry on a conversation with somebody. And ultimately I just stopped going to class. And it wasn't, you know, I can't necessarily, you know, obviously I was drinking and using the whole time. But that wasn't as paralyzing as the social anxiety that I had.
Yeah.
And I remember it very well that, you know, my peers they just couldn't figure out they wanted to know what was wrong with me. And I didn't know how to communicate. I didn't know how to verbalize what was going on. And so needless to say, Clemson politely asked me not to come back.
Yeah.
And, you know, I went back home and my parents had a small business that I started working with them, and I enrolled in Francis Marion back in Florence. And I say I enrolled. I did enroll. I was on the rolls, but I never went. And you know, and here's the thing about me. Like I want people to have the perception that's good of me. And, you know, I would physically get up and drive to Francis Marion and go to the school so people would see me at school.
And then leave.
And then I would go home.
Yeah. That's a job
Yes.
that we have
Yes.
because we're
Keeping
the
up in
director,
appearances.
bro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Keeping up
And
appearances.
you know, we got many different tasks, and
Yeah.
you know, this is what's most important to me. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna show up, and then I'm sliding out.
Yeah.
And what they remember, Kev was there today. I seen him.
Yeah.
No, Kev wasn't there.
And wasn't going to class.
Wasn't going to class. So I'm assuming they asked you not to come back.
Oh
either?
yeah, they did. They did. So I was pretty much done at that point. My drinking and using had escalated. I was working for my folks and shamefully robbing them blind. Not something I'm very proud of, you know. But there's a lot of amends that are continuing to be made. But anyway, so
Well, that's where our defects of character come from.
Yep.
You know, like there's a lot of things we've got to do to keep up with this life we need to keep up with, man. And unfortunately, it comes at the expense of people we love.
Yes, it does.
Because it's the people that we have access to.
Yep.
and I used to brag, people, especially early on in recovery, you're around a lot of people that did a lot of really criminal stuff, and I can remember saying, that I never stole. Even though it was a complete lie, because I was, obviously I was taken from my family, but I can remember John Coleman, a man that I think a lot of, looked at me one day and he said, "How many times did you steal your parents' peace of mind?" And I was like, "Whoa,
Yeah. Yeah, bro.
what?"
Or sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so anyway, I say that to say things continue to escalate. By this point, I had decided that I was, I had more of an entrepreneurial spirit, and I was going to start selling cocaine.
That's so.
I would say,
For all you kids out there that has got an entrepreneur spirit, we do not suggest that you try to sell cocaine
so
and use it at the same time.
needless to say, that business venture didn't quite
Didn't
make it
pan?
off the
That
ground.
didn't pan?
No, but I was, in my mind, I was balling. I was, involved in some much bigger things than I should have been.
Yeah.
And so that escalated pretty quickly, and at that point, the wheels, there were starting to be some consequences. There were some people that were being indicted for distribution, and at that point, I had actually met a girl that lived in Memphis, and that was my cure. That was my geographic.
So was she
cure.
living in Florence, going to school in Florence?
So we had a long distance relationship.
You met her on MySpace?
She was actually engaged to my best friend's, or one of my good friend's older brothers.
Oh.
And so they lived in Memphis. And when they would come home for holidays and stuff, I was the guy that had the coke, and we partied together. And that's how we met. And it really started out that way. And then I'm not quite sure at what point where that line got crossed, but it got crossed. And I would like to mention that, during high school, I never really, I dated girls, but they were devout Christians. They were, really good girls. And so I didn't experience a lot of the, I don't know.
Promiscuity?
There wasn't any promiscuity during that time.
Yeah, for sure.
And my priority was getting high.
Yeah.
So that, relationships in a lot of instances can interfere with that.
Yeah.
And I didn't want anything to interfere with that.
Yeah.
Because when I was getting high, I didn't have to worry about trying to get y'all to like me.
Yes.
For sure.
I didn't care.
Yes.
That came secondary.
Yes.
So anyway, so she was living in Memphis. We were having a long distance relationship, and I said, well, I got to get out of here, and she was she was at the time willing to allow me to move up there to be closer to her, and I thought that me moving up there was going to fix me. It was going to fix everything. If I could just get out of my surroundings, everything
Sure.
would be good. So
Geographical cure.
Yep. So I moved to Memphis. 14 indictments got handed out. I was the only one out of 14 that didn't get indicted, and thank God I left. I blessing or a curse, probably would have done me some good to have some consequences, because up until this point, I really had no consequences for any of the things I'd been doing. So, but anyway, I moved to Memphis, and it wasn't probably 3 months after getting there that she realized that she had just invited a monster into her life. I essentially, my history is to take my umbilical cord and plug it into whoever it is that I'm in a relationship with.
Yeah.
And that's what I proceeded to do. So it didn't take long for me to start stealing from her.
Yeah.
You know, she'd wake up in the middle of the night. I'd be gone with her debit card. I didn't have anything. I was, basically working minimum wage jobs, doing whatever I had to do to keep money coming in. And so it wasn't long after getting there that I first had and I mean, there's millions of.
That was a Hoover cord.
Right. Yeah.
That was a vacuum cleaner.
100%.
They don't realize we vacuum cleaners.
Yes.
Yeah.
We sucking you dry.
But look, like you said that just now, and I've never heard that, man, and that struck me as very powerful. That like my umbilical cord attached to her and like sucks these people dry. Like I don't think a lot. Obviously, if you have family members or people close to you that struggle with addiction and alcoholism, you've experienced it firsthand and you know. But to the degree of how we drain you emotionally, materially,
everything,
spiritually, like that is such a
it's
that
hard,
is such a good
and it's
analogy.
hard to admit, but
Yeah.
it's 100% accurate.
Yeah, bro.
It's 100% accurate.
Yeah.
So
It's powerful, man.
anyway, she confronts me and says, "Look, you need help." Okay, sure. No, I mean, I said I'll go to outpatient, whatever. But I'm still gonna smoke my weed and drink
your
my
thing.
But you've
Bombay
never
Sapphire-
done anything up to
You're
this
what?
point.
my Bombay Sapphire and tonic.
Yes, you are. Yes, you
But
are.
you've never treatment, nothing like
No.
this ever.
No, there had been zero treatment, zero
Right.
consequences. What I was doing up until this point, as far as I was concerned, was age specific behavior. This is what everybody I
Everybody
know
does.
does.
Yeah.
There will come a point in my life where I'll settle down and settle into whatever life it is that I've created for
Yeah.
myself.
Yeah.
And so in my mind, everything was fine.
Yeah.
Sure.
And so I did. I went and signed up for Memphis Alcohol and Drug Council, outpatient. I think I went maybe 1 or 2 nights a week or something. It was, it was a joke.
Yeah.
It was a joke. And I continued to smoke weed and drink. And, that's when I realized the power of alcohol. Because for the most part, I was pretty much okay as long as I didn't have a drop of alcohol in me. But the moment that I put alcohol in my system,
Cocaine.
it was, you hear about that spring that's compressed. I walked around like a compressed spring 24/7. But the moment that alcohol entered my system, all bets were off.
Mm-hmm.
All bets were off. That spring sprung and I was gone.
Yeah.
Gone.
So, met my first real hardcore crack dealer at Memphis Alcohol and Drug Council, like
Fantastic.
we do. Yeah, got hooked up. And
You had never smoked crack up until then?
I had.
But it was not something you were doing every
no.
day.
No, we would smoke crack whenever there wasn't any coke around.
For sure.
Because
Well, that's how I
you gotta
got
have
introduced
something,
to it.
right?
Yeah.
You can't.
Well, I remember going and the guy being like, "Hey, man, I'm out." And
Yeah.
I was like, he said, but I got this cocaine that is rocked up that you can smoke. And it's not like I'm leaving like, you know what, just call me when you get some powder in.
Nah.
Nah,
I'm
let me
leaving
get
with
that.
something.
Let me
Yeah.
get that.
Yeah.
I'm leaving with something.
That's a problem, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially when you actually, because I'm like you with crack. Like, I didn't get high the first time, but I didn't know what I was doing. Until I had a buddy that was like professional, could do it on a can with 2 big lighters. And then you start hearing that whoa, 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 whoa. And I knew, I was like, I'm in big trouble right now.
Yeah.
Because you think snorting that line of cocaine was good.
Oh,
When you hit that train from hitting that crack cocaine,
yeah.
I know why people sell their soul.
Oh yeah.
Well, and it just had such a negative connotation that, I mean, crack was it was dirty.
Oh,
you know what
bro.
I'm saying? And
Yeah.
like, I'm a preppy, upper middle class white kid. And that was something like I had that feeling. I knew that I'd arrived whenever I did it, but I just buried it. Like
Oh, yeah, there's no way
I cannot
they can know
let
I'm
people
smoking crack.
the rest of it's fine.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so that was the only reason I didn't really go off to the races the first time that I did it, is because it was just such a
Just a temporary
Right.
thing until we could get back to the
right.
to
So
the powder.
I meet him, Hervel. Never will forget that guy, Hervel, at Memphis Alcohol and Drug Council, and it was on then. There was no more at that point. I was hooked.
Yeah.
And I couldn't stop. It got to the point that I hid it for so long. I think at this point, I got engaged and married like any good
With this same girl.
with same girl. Yeah. And managed to just make her think everything was okay. And I think she was in denial. And she loved me and wanted to believe the best, just like we all do when we have family members that are in that position. And,
Yeah.
And so I hid it. I lied. I could not tell the truth. It didn't matter what the situation was, whether it was connected to the event of getting high or stealing to do it or whatever it was that I had to do at the time. The truth was not in me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
As sad as it is for me to say. Yeah. And so that went on for probably 2 years, almost 2 years. And then finally, so at this point I'd started working at a bank of all places. I was a teller, cashing checks and work, as I'm living this other life, I'm moving my way up through retail banking and relatively successful. And you said something earlier, CJ, you asked me about the success, or you were referring to what events reinforced. And I was thinking about how I just had these two separate lives, and I continue to have no consequences, continue to actually be somewhat successful. I mean, people like me. I was, well-spoken. I didn't
Mannerable.
Right.
Yeah.
And I was raised well, and people noticed that. And so I was able to kind of move, scheme my way through life.
Yeah.
And professionally I started getting promotions and then I started making money. I got in the mortgage business. And at 21 years old at this point, I was making close to $100,000 a year. And I lost it.
Yeah.
I was making that kind of money standing behind or by the ATM machine when my direct deposit would go in.
Yeah.
Had no overhead, no expenses whatsoever, but I couldn't wait for that direct deposit.
Yeah.
Like I literally would be standing there by the ATM machine at midnight waiting on it to hit.
Yeah.
That's a lot of cocaine.
Yeah.
And
A lot of partying.
yeah. And
A lot of strippers. No, I'm just kidding.
no, I could care less.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Just being
Let's
real.
be honest,
Yeah.
bro.
Like it
Meth
robbed me.
or crack. Once you get involved in a romantic relationship with that drug, bro,
dude.
sex is
Nothing.
not
It's not
something
it's
that
not even
you
on
care
the,
anything
it's not on the
about.
radar.
Because then that's just going to take away from my love
Yeah.
of crack and
Yep.
and this type of drug.
Yes.
Because there's something different about meth and crack, dude.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you,
Yep.
like, there's no room for a relationship
Nah.
when you're pursuing it.
Nope.
Not at
None
all.
whatsoever.
So I know you're married with her, but y'all have a child,
We do.
and
And
she came in the midst of that.
she did.
And how old is she today?
She's 21.
21.
So she's a senior this year at University of Washington out in Seattle.
Yeah. So she's at Washington
Yep.
And
Huskies.
Huskies.
it's probably going to be hard for me to talk about it,
Sure.
but I had been kicked out of treatment in Oxford, Mississippi, when I found out that she was going into labor with Addie. And
TJ, don't you cry.
That's too late. Too late, bro.
fortunately, I had a guy that was up in Memphis that that came down and picked me up and out of a seedy hotel room, whatever, and got me back up to Memphis in time for her to be born. But just not a good person, man. Not who I needed to be from day one for her or a lot of people. And it's real hard for me to talk about it, but she born healthy, beautiful, beautiful girl. And, you know, I, for the most part, could not be anything to her other than just who I was
Yeah.
at the time.
That life continued.
Yeah, it continued because you know, at this point, you know, my ex Elizabeth had enough. You know, she had put me out, and rightfully so. And you know, there wasn't any going back to that. And so in my mind, you know, I'd already screwed things up. So, you know, that mentality that we get of let's just make it
It's
really
just
bad.
effort, bro. We don't care. We think we don't care.
And that's what I set out to do, you know. So, you know, I've skipped around a lot, but you know, so over the course of probably a 3-year period, I was in 10 different treatment centers. You know, homeless in Memphis. I wasn't living on like sleeping on the street, but I had no place to go. I had all of my stuff in a trash bag. And I'd carry my stuff from an AA meeting to AA meeting, relying on people to give me a couch to sleep on. Got to the point that, you know, I wore out my welcome with them with constant relapses and, you know, couldn't manage to hold any time together. And I can remember vividly knowing that I was about to not have a place to go. And, I went to a treatment center and I told them that I was going to hurt myself because I knew
You would get a bed.
that I would get a bed if I told them that I was going to off myself.
Yeah.
And sure enough, they did. They gave me a bed, but they also took my belt, my shoelaces, and I don't know. I was 140 pounds, 6'2", so I didn't have clothes that fit to start with. So you taking a belt from me
Is a problem.
it's a problem.
That's fantastic.
So, but you know, that's what I did.
Yeah.
That's, you know,
Yeah.
I'm telling these people something that's completely untrue just so I can get a
Security.
place to stay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
But we'll go to any lengths to get our instincts met. Like no matter the situation and no matter how far down the totem pole our lives have gone. At this point in your life, you have no inhibitions.
no.
You have there's no line you won't cross, and your character defects have developed to a point where I'm willing to admit that I'm going to kill myself just so I have somewhere to sleep.
Right.
That's what drug addiction is, man.
Yeah.
Like it really is. And it just speaks so much to the grace of God that we're sitting here.
Oh, it's
You know, like
nothing short of miraculous.
So what treatment center were you at? Like at this point?
Oh God.
Like when that happened, do you
It was in
remember?
Tennessee, right?
No, well, so the event, you know, I skipped around. When I came back to Memphis when Addie was born,
Yeah.
I was in the Oxford house, or excuse me, the Haven house in Oxford, Mississippi.
got you.
It's where I
Okay.
was.
Yeah.
I got kicked out for fraternizing
Yeah.
because apparently I'd met God's will number 12 in there. That's a great place.
This was a girlfriend?
huh?
God's will number 12?
Oh, I was in love.
Oh, yeah, you
Yeah.
were.
Yeah, because yeah.
Hammerhead.
What's
AA
that?
guy
What's that?
meets AA girl.
What's that they say? The odds are good. The odds are good, but the goods are odd. About meeting. It's about meeting.
That's exactly what they say. That's exactly what they say. Good
So-
thing. Well, anyway,
So anyway,
that didn't work out very
no,
well.
it didn't work out very well, and so I got kicked out and made it back to Memphis. But yeah, there was countless treatment centers during that period. I mean, I don't even remember. I couldn't even, like, I'd have to sit here and write every
Yeah.
single one of them down.
Yeah.
But I mean, I know. It was my only way of escaping reality at that point because I didn't have any place to go.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I just became a professional treatment center resident.
Yeah.
But at
Got
that-
good at that too.
But at that
Yeah,
time,
yeah.
are there, in this juncture, are there a turning point on the horizon?
At this point, yeah. I mean, I would say, before I was completely unwilling to acknowledge the fact that I had a problem.
Yeah.
Of course, at this point, okay, there's a problem. But, I still wasn't willing to surrender. Or maybe I surrendered countless times, but I would just immediately take my will back because, you're talking about a guy that had just come out of was working in a job making six figures, and I wasn't willing to go work minimum wage. I was too good for that. I wasn't willing to do anything. I wasn't willing to go to any lengths. And so there was always something that was preventing me from completely surrendering. And so as the result of that, that's why there wasn't any lasting effect. I'd stay sober 30, 60 days. I mean, I've got a bag full of chips, white chips, 30-day chips, like just constantly. I could tile.
We need to get them.
Tile a bathroom.
Yeah.
You bring them next time.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we've been paying way too much for chips.
we need
some of them.
Plenty of them, man. I mean, HACA.
We'll just paint them. No trouble. No
all
trouble.
of 'em. Yeah.
No trouble.
So yeah, I mean, at this point, I was willing to acknowledge that I had a problem. I just wasn't willing to, I wasn't willing to
change.
accept God was the answer.
Yeah.
Well, bro, listen, I think that with so much left to be said,
Yes.
there's a turning point here that
Yes.
we're going to go into that
I'm excited
people
to
are
hear
probably on the side of the sheet, but they're going to tune in next week
Yeah, they are.
to hear, what happened to this Kevin Medlin guy?
Yeah. I'm excited.
Until next time.
Peace.
Cheers.